Cleopatra's life unfolded at the crossroads of power and vulnerability, where intelligence mattered as much as armies, and where survival depended on charm, calculation, and timing. She was born in 69 BCE into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that had ruled Egypt since the time of Alexander the Great. Although they governed an ancient land, the Ptolemies were outsiders, speaking Greek and clinging to Macedonian customs. Cleopatra would become the rare exception. From an early age, she immersed herself in Egyptian language and culture, presenting herself not just as a queen ruling Egypt, but as a true Egyptian pharaoh. This decision alone would define her reign and set her apart from her ancestors. Her childhood was shaped by instability. The royal court was full of intrigue, betrayal, and sudden deaths. Siblings were rivals, parents were unreliable allies, and power could vanish overnight. Cleopatra learned quickly that intelligence was her greatest weapon. She studied mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and medicine, and she reportedly spoke many languages, allowing her to communicate directly with foreign ambassadors without translators. In a world ruled by men, this ability gave her a quiet but powerful advantage. When her father, Ptolemy XII, died, Cleopatra was around 18 years old. According to tradition, she was forced to marry her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, and rule jointly with him. The partnership quickly collapsed. Cleopatra attempted to rule independently, placing her image alone on coins and official documents. This angered her brother's advisors, who soon pushed her out of power. She was exiled from Alexandria and stripped of her throne. For many rulers, exile would have marked the end. For Cleopatra, it was only the beginning of her most daring gamble. At the same time, Rome was tearing itself apart in civil war. Julius Caesar emerged victorious and arrived in Egypt in pursuit of his rival, Pompey. Cleopatra saw opportunity where others saw chaos. In a move that would become legend, she secretly had herself smuggled into Caesar's presence, reportedly wrapped in a rug or sack. Whether or not the story is true, the outcome certainly was. Cleopatra impressed Caesar with her intelligence, confidence, and political insight. Their alliance was both strategic and personal. With Caesar's support, she defeated her brother's forces and reclaimed the throne. Ptolemy XIII died soon after, drowned during the fighting, and Cleopatra once again ruled Egypt. Her relationship with Caesar brought stability and danger in equal measure. She traveled to Rome, living there openly as his partner, a shocking act that fueled gossip and resentment among Roman elites. She bore him a son, Caesarion, whom she claimed was Caesar's heir. But Rome was a city that tolerated power only within its own traditions. When Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE, Cleopatra's position collapsed overnight. She fled back to Egypt, once again alone at the top of a fragile kingdom. For a brief time, Cleopatra ruled cautiously, consolidating power and eliminating threats, including another younger brother who had been named. Egypt remained wealthy but vulnerable, dependent on Roman goodwill for survival. Soon, another Roman power figure entered her life, Mark Antony. He was charismatic, ambitious, and deeply flawed. When he summoned Cleopatra to meet him, she arrived not as a subject but as a queen, sailing up the river in a lavish barge, dressed as the goddess Isis. Antony was captivated. Their relationship was intense and theatrical, blending romance with politics. Cleopatra needed a powerful Roman ally. Antony needed Egypt's wealth and resources. Together, they formed a partnership that alarmed Rome. They had children and openly ruled parts of the Eastern Mediterranean, presenting themselves as divine rulers. To many Romans, especially Antony's rival Octavian, this was unacceptable. Cleopatra was portrayed as a dangerous foreign seductress, a woman who had bewitched a Roman general and threatened the stability of Rome itself. Propaganda painted Cleopatra as immoral and manipulative, but the reality was more complex. She was fighting for Egypt's independence in a world rapidly being swallowed by Roman power. Antony's loyalty to her over Rome gave Octavian the excuse he needed. War became inevitable. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. The battle was chaotic, and when Cleopatra's fleet withdrew, Antony followed her, leaving his forces behind. Whether this was a strategic retreat or a moment of panic remains debated, but the result was disastrous. Octavian emerged victorious, defeated and cornered. Cleopatra returned to Egypt, knowing the end was near. Antony, believing she was already dead, took his own life. When Cleopatra learned of his death, she was devastated but still calculating. She attempted to negotiate with Octavian, hoping to preserve her throne or secure her children's future. Octavian, however, had no intention of letting her rule. He planned to take her to Rome as a trophy, parading her through the streets as a symbol of his victory. Cleopatra refused to accept such humiliation. In 30 BCE, she chose death on her own terms. According to tradition, she died by the bite of an asp, though the exact method remains uncertain. What matters more than how she died is why. Her death marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the final collapse of Egypt as an independent kingdom. Soon after, Egypt became a Roman province, its immense wealth feeding the empire she had fought so hard to resist. Cleopatra's legacy has been shaped as much by myth as by history. She has been remembered as a seductress, a villain, a tragic lover, and a glamorous queen. In truth, she was a skilled ruler navigating an impossible political landscape. She used the tools available to her: intelligence, diplomacy, symbolism, and yes, personal relationships to protect her kingdom. Her story is not just one of romance and tragedy, but of resistance in the face of overwhelming power. In the quiet retelling of history, Cleopatra's life feels almost like a slow-burning tragedy, inevitable yet deeply human. She lived in a time when survival demanded constant vigilance and when one wrong decision could erase a dynasty. Her world moved slowly, measured by river floods and shifting alliances, but its consequences echoed for centuries. Long after her death, her name continued to drift through history, wrapped in mystery and fascination, a reminder that power can be both intoxicating and fragile, and that even the most brilliant minds cannot always outrun the tide of history.